Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 13 mini just ended up coming out, so let's go and compare it against the iPhone 7 Plus and see which specific iPhone you should go and pick up. If you have all the money in the world, please pick up the iPhone 13 mini. This is the much better phone, but the 7 Plus, is still supported with software, so it may still be worth your money to some extent. Now, like I mentioned, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, so 13 mini, maybe some other ones I'd recommend this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, a little bit of a difference. Although the 7 Plus is a much bigger phone, the 13 mini has a pretty close display 5.5-inch panel on the iPhone 7 Plus, 5.4-inch panel on the iPhone 13 mini. You have an AMOLED panel or OLED panel on the 13 mini, where the 7 Plus has an IPS panel. So again, a little bit of a difference. It's not the end-all be-all of the world, but it is a slight difference for sure. Now, looking on the sides, in terms of thinness and thickness, I will definitely tell you the 13 mini is a little bit of a thicker phone than the 7 Plus, but both are still fairly good and both are still fairly slim. But I think the 7 Plus is a little bit thinner, which is pretty crazy. And on the back, we have glass back on the iPhone 13 mini, but this aluminum back on the 7 Plus. Now, a big thing to keep in mind is that the 7 Plus doesn't feel cheap, but the 13 mini feels more premium because of that glass back. So that's a big, massive thing to keep in mind, but the 7 Plus still feels pretty premium for being, 5 years old this year. Now, we do have the power button on the left side, which is great. IP certification on both devices, which is great as well. Lightning ports at the bottom, no headphone jacks in either one of these dual cameras right here. And that pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. Now, in terms of, the longevity of both of them, the big thing to keep in mind is that the iPhone 7 Plus is really not going to be lasting a crazy amount longer. I mean, this was a great phone, when it came out. It was the flagship of that year. But do keep in mind that it's pretty much on its last leg. I think it may get iOS 4.16, and then I think it's going to be done. I don't think it's going to get any more software updates after that. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. On the 13 mini, on the other hand, this phone just came out. It has that latest chipset. It's really only going up from here. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. If you want a phone that's going to last the longest amount of time, this is by far the best way to go, in my opinion. So in terms of longevity, that pretty much covers it up here. Now let's go and do a speed test between both of these phones. Now, the 7 Plus has that Apple A10 Fusion chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 13 mini has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you guys can see. So let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And I totally messed that one up, so we'll just let this one slide. Let's go and do music, 3, 2, 1. And I think the 7 Plus was faster, but I have opened it up before on the 7 Plus and I had to close out of it, so that may have been why. Let's go and do the App Store, 3, 2, 1. And I don't know what's going on with the iOS 15 devices, especially the older ones. They're having a lot of touchscreen issues, which is very annoying. So scrolling speeds, I think the 13 mini definitely is smoother here, but the 7 Plus still seems fairly smooth too. Clicking into this random one, we can go and see kind of the same type of thing going on between both, so not a big difference here. Hopping out of this specific application, let's go and get into their cameras, 3, 2, 1, and pretty much the same thing. Let's click on this specific photo, and you can see even on this 13 mini it seemed a little bit faster. Photos, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini I think is faster. Clock, 3, 2, 1. Almost the same thing, so not a big difference there. We can go and get into something like mail, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini again is the faster one here. Now let's do news, 3, 2, 1. And this could be due to the fact that the 7 Plus, well actually the 13 mini loaded this specific page up faster, so that probably has something to do with it. Let's go and load up some of these third-party applications that we have on both of these phones now. Let's do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini I think was the faster one here. Hopping out of this specific app, let's do Twitter, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini was the faster one there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into Instagram, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini again is the faster one. Let's go into Netflix, 3, 2, 1. And again, the 13 mini is the faster phone here. Hopping out of this specific app, let's go and get into Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini faster. Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini again is the faster one here. Bofa, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini is faster. 7 Plus noticeably behind, which is totally okay. Thank you, 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, the 13 mini is faster. The 7 Plus was quite a bit behind in that specific example. Hopping out of the specific app, Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. 13 mini is the faster one. 7 Plus a little bit behind. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. And I mean, I think I know which one is going to be the faster one here as well. 13 mini is fully loaded for the most part. I just hit the camera. And the 7 Plus is a little bit behind. Like I mentioned, totally okay. We want there to be a big difference. And even this one isn't as crazy big of a difference as I thought. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone 7 Plus is doing a much better job than I actually initially thought. I think the 13 mini is still a great phone. I mean, you spent a lot of money on it, but the 7 Plus is actually holding its own, and I'm actually fairly surprised about it. I did not think that phone would do as good as it's been doing. Now, in this specific case, there's a pretty big difference. I don't know why in this specific example, the 13 mini was so much faster than the 7 Plus, but I think I can probably tell you that the 7 Plus actually kind of surprised me. I think this 13 mini is definitely the faster one by all means, but the 7 Plus is a 2016 phone, and I'm seeing some times where both of them are fairly close. I mean, the 13 mini is far faster, but I'm still fairly surprised. Let's do stack. 3, 2, 1. I'm actually pretty surprised how fast the 7 Plus is. So, I mean, definitely when it comes down to it, it's going to be kind of hard to explain. The 13 mini is the faster one, don't get me wrong, but the 7 Plus did a pretty good job today in terms of the performance. So again, I think when it comes down to it, the 13 mini is faster, but the 7 Plus is actually pretty surprisingly fast still in 2021. So in terms of that, that covers it up here. Now let's go and quickly hit on the cameras. Now, like I mentioned before, dual camera setups on both. Now, they have a little bit of a different setup. The 7 Plus has a dual camera setup, wide and telephoto lens. The 13 mini has a wide and ultra wide sensor. So a little bit difference. The 7 Plus can zoom in a lot. The 13 mini can zoom out a lot. Now, in terms of the camera UIs on both, like I mentioned before, it's very interesting how similar all these phones are still. Now, both have portrait mode, which is great, but the iPhone 13 mini does have cinematic mode, which is essentially like portrait mode for video, which is really cool, and I actually do like that capability a lot. I'm still surprised, though, how good the 7 Plus's camera still is. I mean, it's definitely not perfect. It's not better than the 13 mini, but it's definitely surprising. Now with the 7 Plus, I mean, like I said, you're getting that dual camera setup. So you still have the ability to zooming in a lot. You don't really have a crazy amount of zooming out, though. That's a big thing to keep in mind. But you also have 4K at 30 on the back of this phone and only 1080p at 30 on the front of this phone, which is kind of sad. The iPhone 13 mini has 4K at 60 on the front and the back. So this one definitely has a better camera without a doubt. With the 13 mini, you're getting a much better setup overall. I mean, this is a beautiful camera. That ability of zooming out a lot is beautiful. That ability of zooming in a lot is also really, really good. And I have, like I mentioned, very few complaints about this specific camera. Is it perfect? Not really, and definitely the 13 Pro Max has a better camera, but this is still a very good sensor with really good video quality as well. So I'm perfectly content with this specific camera quality. So now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy a 13 mini or should you go buy an iPhone 7 Plus or keep your 7 Plus? Well, I think the 7 Plus is still a pretty decent phone. I think it has a lot of character still and has a lot of capability. You have a pretty decent build quality still. I mean, this phone you can probably pick up for like $100 and something. So it's definitely not a super expensive phone anymore. And I think it's still a pretty decent value. I would say if you have this phone, if you can make it another year, maybe you can keep it. If you want, you can keep it until some 13 minis go down in value in the used market. But I think the better choice here by far is the iPhone 13 mini. This not only is the better phone, as most of you may know, but this is a substantially better phone. It has better battery life. It has a better performance. It has more longevity when it comes down to it. This phone's going to be lasting much longer than the 7 Plus. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. I still think the 7 Plus is a decent phone for the price, but because the 13 mini is so much better, I would highly recommend you to pick up the 13 mini over the 7 Plus, but the choice is yours. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.